Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Welcome to week one of your BK101 class. So this is week one, so we're going to do an introduction, Chef Jen and myself, and we're going to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. If you've got questions about the program, you got questions about the class, you're nervous, you're excited, I want to hear all about it in this class. We're going to also go over what is going to be due for week one. So lots of things to cover today. And then I want to go over the syllabus a little bit, talk about discussion forums as we move forward, knowledge checks, and just kind of talk about your overall kitchen setup. So I think this is going to be a very exciting class. I hope you guys are ready. Are you ready, Chef Jen?
I'm ready.
Okay. And then, before I get started, I must introduce you guys to Michelle Richards. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hey, Chef. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Michelle's here with us because if you guys have questions about student support, she's going to be very helpful in that aspect. So maybe, Michelle, I'll give the floor to you if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everyone. So I'm one of actually the student success coaches here at Escoffier. So what our main goal is, we really want to ensure that you are successful in all of your classes. We'll be working with you throughout your 13 months here at Escoffier. So your chef instructors are really the experts in terms of academics or questions about your assignments, things of that nature. However, we're here to assist you with things outside of school, such as if you have health concerns, financial concerns, need help with managing commitments or balancing the priorities that you have outside of school, in addition to your work. So we're kind of really a go-to person. We are in communication with your chef instructors quite frequently, as well as, financial aid, as well as the student support team, which is your online support team. So we're definitely here as a resource to you. Please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other coaches. You all should be assigned a coach. If you don't know who your coach is, please feel free to chat me, and I'll make sure that we reach out to you. Thanks, Chef Paul.
Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, are you hanging with us, or do you got to get back to your?
Oh no, I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right, good. I wasn't sure. So,
no, I'm sticking around.
Do you guys have any questions for Michelle? Or if you think of some later, you can always interrupt, so that's fine. And I'm cool with you guys interrupting, so as we go through and I'm talking about stuff, if I get talking too fast, which I always do, go ahead and interrupt me and say like, wait, I have a question. So, next, let me introduce myself before we get started, because you guys were asking earlier. So my name is Chef Paul Rock, and I am originally from the East Coast, from New England and Vermont. I grew up on Lake Champlain on a huge dairy farm on the Quebec border, so about 45, 50 minutes out of Montreal. And 25 years or so, I moved to Los Angeles. But what spun that whole trip to Los Angeles was I went to culinary school, like you guys are doing. And I did it for a couple of years. I went to school for culinary, but afterwards I'm like, I don't want to do culinary, I want to do pastry. So I kind of switched gears a little bit. So I've been a pastry chef now for 25 plus years. And I love school so much that I went back and got my bachelor's degree in culinary management. So something you guys may want to think about later on. And I just really enjoy it. My first job, other than working in Vermont and working in restaurants and prepping and bussing tables and doing dishes from the age of like 15, and now I'm 52, so you can see I've been doing this for a long time. Growing up on a farm too, my mom made all the desserts, she made all the breads, everything was made from scratch. So at 8 years old, I was learning how to make pies with her. So she was kind of my inspiration to get me into the baking side of things. But when I moved to California, I started working for the Peninsula Hotel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Peninsula Group, but it's a very famous, luxurious hotel brand across the world. And so I worked at the Peninsula in Beverly Hills, and that was my externship, or internship, if you want to say, from school. And it turned into a full-time job, and that's why I stayed here, because I loved it so much. So I worked at the Peninsula. I left the Peninsula a few years later, and I started working for Universal Studios in Hollywood, which is 2 miles from my house, so it's kind of cool. I could see the Harry Potter castle and stuff from where I live. But I worked there as their head cake decorator, and I did that for 5 years. And I made a lot of cakes for celebrities and for wrap parties. Wrap parties are like the parties when like a TV show ends. Motion picture releases, so movie premieres, I did big cakes for that. So that's my specialty, really, is cakes. So after 5 years of that, see, I got this 5-year pattern. So after 5 years, I went to Santa Anita Racetrack, which is a famous racetrack. It's so gorgeous. And if you ever saw the movie Seabiscuit, you would have seen a lot of the scenes from Santa Anita. And so I was their executive pastry chef for 5 years there. In between all that, I've done a lot of consulting and helped people open their bakeries and have their dreams come true, you know, by working with their formulas and working in test kitchens and developing recipes and formulas for them and guiding them along that process. And then I started teaching at a ground school. I'll just call it Brand X. And I did that for 10 years. And I taught the patisserie program for that. And then I came to Escoffier over a year ago and just continue with that, mentoring students and teaching and, you know, using all that knowledge that I've gained over the years, like you guys will be doing, and helping others. So I'm very patient. I love teaching. I love being with students, and I love seeing that process of learning. And when the light bulb goes off and it like clicks, I like seeing the creativity like flowing out of your fingertips when I look at your assignments each week. And I'm sure Chef Jen will back me up on that too. It's very exciting to open up that file and be like, because you don't know what to expect, right? You're like, this is going to be really awesome. And you go into it with like a very open mind, look at that work. And then, you know, we give you an honest critique, right? So we're not going to hold your hand through the whole thing. We're going to give you guys awesome instruction, and we're going to critique your work fairly, okay? And at the same time, give you guys some little tidbits of information along the way to help you out. So maybe give you some shortcuts, things that I had to do the long way. Maybe I can give you guys a little bit of a shorter trip, so it won't take you quite so long to get to it. So does that all make sense? I'll start rambling, so I got to stop. So I'm going to give it to Chef Jen.
Hey guys, I'm originally from Georgia, but I have, like I was saying earlier, migrated north by way of Indiana and then to Illinois. I've been in baking for 6-7 years now. I've worked just about every aspect of a bakery as well as in a restaurant, except for the line. I left the sharp knives to the experts. My specialty is cakes, and I enjoy making the cake pops and cookies and stuff like that. So I really had a lot of fun. I've been with the Escoffier for about a year now myself, and I've tutored, I've mentored students, so it's been a lot of fun, and I know y'all are going to have a blast, especially under Chef Paul's wing. He's got so much good information and nice little tidbits and stories to make you laugh along the way. Just know we're always here. If you ever need us, just reach out to us. I also currently am pulling full-time duty at a bakery as the assistant manager / general manager. So if there's a little bit of a delay in me getting back to you, don't flip out. I promise, either on my break or as soon as I get in, I will respond to emails and phone calls. Okay?
Thank you, Chef. Tidbits and stories. What stories? I don't tell stories.
Oh, there's plenty of them that they're going to enjoy hearing.
I try to make them relevant.
He does like to rub in his weather. So if any of you are in Illinois like I am and it's cold half the year or more than half the year, and he's complaining because it's 80, 85, just start ignoring him.
I have to be honest, though. We purchased a home in Vermont maybe like 4 weeks ago. So I will be moving probably while you guys are in week 7. I will finally be leaving Southern California and going back east where my family is, and just bought a new house, and it's being designed on the inside right now. The outside is completed. So it's kind of fun to like get into that kitchen. All there is like 2x4s and plywood floors right now. So like designing the cabinets and the appliances, something that I've always dreamed of doing. You know, I've done it for businesses, but I've never done it for myself, for my own home. So I'm really excited about that. So I will be making that trek from California to Vermont probably in the next 6 weeks or so, driving with my cat and my partner and my son following, and all of us moving and caravanning back to the East Coast. So I will not be rubbing in any more hot temperatures with you guys. I'm going to be probably like bundled up in like a big jacket and freezing my butt. All right. So before we get started with the syllabus and, you know, class requirements and things that you should know, and I know a lot of you guys have been kind of sniffing around a little bit and getting familiar with the class, because I can see if you guys have plugged in. And I love that. So get in, you can't really break anything. So like click on everything and check it all out, right? Do you guys have any questions before I get rolling?
Real quick, Chef, before you get rolling, I am going to mute everybody so we can all hear what Chef's saying. If you need to unmute yourself, down at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see the unmute. Feel free to do that as well.
Thank you, Chef. Okay, so, and then I'm going to share my screen, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I think you were all now, right? I think so. Yeah, you can just do thumbs up. Yeah. All right. Chef Chanel and I go back at least 10 years together. We worked in the ground school together, so you know we're like thick as thieves, the two of us. But she's awesome, so I'm glad that you guys had to experience Chef Chanel through orientation. And of course, she's always going to be available to you guys as we move through the program. So if you ever need to ask questions or talk to Chef, she is always going to be answering your questions. As same as myself and Chef Jen. So when you guys do leave this class, I know it's a 12-week class, so we're going to be together for 3 months. But when you guys do leave the class, you know, you can always come back and ask me questions. You can ask Chef Jen, of course. Michelle will always be able to answer your questions as well. So make sure you guys take advantage of that, okay? So just because you leave our class doesn't mean that you leave us entirely. So you want to stay connected. That's really important. So can't stress that enough. So, and ask a million questions. Ask questions in class. That's why we have the live sessions too. And I see we have a lot of participants today, and that's awesome. I'd love to see that going forward, and even more. I love seeing you guys in your jackets. It looks great. Now, it's not a requirement, but it's definitely puts you in that professional mode and gets you ready for the week. Okay, so I'm in my jacket, Chef's in hers. So I love seeing all the white coats. I think it's beautiful. So thank you guys for doing that. But again, we're always available for answering your questions. You can call us, you can text us, and I'll show you all that contact information again. And Chef Jen and I will send out emails, so please don't ignore your emails. Sometimes I'll put like Chef Paul here, like to get your attention, but you're like, oh, Chef Paul, I get like 19 other emails too. So I've had students say to me like, I can't read all those emails, I just ignore them. But don't ignore them, because I'm giving you guys important information about the class. Okay, so we all make a deal, like you're gonna read the emails, yes? Thumbs up? Okay, I know. I'll try not to make them too long or wordy, so I just like get to the point. I'll send out field guides too, like I sent out the one for week 1 already, so it kind of gives you an idea of what's gonna happen that week. So each week you'll get one of those, so it's a really good reference point. And then also at the top of your class page, I will leave like a little 2 or 3 minute recording, and it's just gonna kind of recap what we talked about in class today. And then you can use that as a reference as well of what is due, just in case. But also, I'm going to drop in the recorded live session. So that usually takes about an hour or so to upload through YouTube and then get it back into the LMS or into the, you know, your class itself. So that you need to, you know, have a little patience there. It may take an hour and 45 minutes. Sometimes things are a little slow. But the archive video will be posted within a couple hours after class. And then you guys can review that a million times. So even if you're in the live session and you're like, oh, what were they talking about again? You can go back and do that. And when I was talking about sharing the screen, when you guys start producing your work in class, which you will start doing this week, if you want to share your screen in these live sessions, we can walk you through that, and you can show the other students in class what you're working on, so we can see your work as well. So it's kind of like a little show and tell. And I tell you, you know, not everything is going to be perfect in the beginning, and you're going to have mistakes, and we encourage mistakes, okay? We want you guys to make mistakes and then learn from that. And that's why we do these narrative and production reports that we'll have each week. And Chef Jen will talk about that a little bit later too when we go into the assignment. But taking really good notes, taking really good photographs of your work, nice and clear so that we can see everything, is really important for us to be able to give you an honest critique of your work. And you may see like some mistakes, and it doesn't mean that you have to make it over again. You guys can go ahead and submit what you've done. Because sometimes financially it's not feasible to go out and make it 16 times, and we're not asking you guys to do that. So please understand, make it once, that's okay. And if that's all your resources allow is to make it once, that's fine. You know, as long as we learn from any mistakes that we may have made. And we'll be able to help you guys with that throughout this entire class. So the narrative, which we'll talk about a little bit, is a really important key for us to understand your path from beginning to end of that particular assignment. So sharing your work, whether it is good or bad, and we're all our own worst critics. Like I'll make a cake And I've been making cakes for a long time. So I'll make a cake and I'll still find flaws in it. Okay. And that's just me. And so I'm like, well, there's a mistake there. And now I don't have time to fix it. What am I going to do? And then I'm like, every cake has a back. So I'll be like, I'll just turn the cake around. No one's going to see that side. Or I'll cover it with some type of decoration that no one's ever going to see that I stuck my finger in the side of it when I tried to move it. So, you know, these things happen and it's okay. So if you have something you want to share that you're not super proud of, but you're kind of wondering like, how can I make this better? Don't be afraid to show it in front of the other class. We're not here to laugh at you. That's not what it's all about. It's a learning environment. And I want you guys to like show your good stuff. I want you to show your bad stuff. And that way we can all have a good understanding. Okay, does that make sense? All right, good or bad, ugly, I want to see it all. Same thing when you submit your assignment. When Chef Jen is looking at your assignment, submit your work the way that we ask you to, and then say you have some stuff that didn't work out so well, you can have another file for that, and then we can also poke around in that file. Not that you're going to get graded for that file, but maybe there's some stuff you want us to see, to critique, you know, something to kind of guide you along the way. So you can dump some things that you're not so proud of in that file each week and be like, can you check these out too and see what I did wrong over here? And that's okay as well. So remember, mistakes are okay. Just learn from it. Sound good? All right. Not that you guys are going to make any mistakes, because I know you're all perfectionists. All pastry chefs are perfectionists, and that's what's going to kill us. What's going to drive us nuts. Okay. But so far, I made it to 52, and I'm still here. So I'm very particular about things that I do and about everything in my life. I don't know. Everything has to be in its place. Mise en place. You know, all that has to be perfect. Everything that I do, like my edges of my cakes, everything has to be straight and smooth. And I tell you, when I first started doing that when I was young, my first job was just icing cakes, and I did that for 6 months. I didn't even get to decorate them. All I got to do was bake the cakes, make the icing, and ice them smooth, then pass them on to other cake decorators who would do all the fancy work. And I did it for 6 months. I'm like, oh, this is so boring. But I tell you one thing, I got so fast at it that I can ice a cake in probably less than 2 minutes, perfectly smooth. And when I started, it probably took me 45 minutes to get one perfectly smooth, because I kept going crazy. Like, it's got bubbles in it. It's not straight. It's not perfect. And so I finally learned. But after 6 months of doing it, so repetition obviously works. And now it's easy for me, and it will be for you too. It just takes practice. So like all things in life, you got to practice, right? So the first week, this week, we're going to be supreming an orange. And you're like, well, that's not super exciting. It is, because it's you starting to hone in those skills. Knife skills are important for all chefs, not just culinary chefs. They're important for pastry chefs. There are going to be times when you are making fruit tarts and you're doing plated desserts where your knife cuts are really going to be key. So it's important that you have everything uniform and very clean. So this is a good step forward in that for that technique. So you all have your toolkits yet, or some are still coming in? Not yet. Okay. So some have it, some don't. That's okay, because for the first week, you don't really need your toolkit. All you need is a cutting board and a little sanitizer bucket or spray bottle, sanitizer strips. If you don't have the sanitizer strips yet, you can go ahead and use antibacterial wipes in your photo. So we'll talk a little bit about that whole setup so you guys can see. And then you need a sharp knife. So do most of you guys have a good sharp knife in your house? Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I brought a knife to class. It's something you can't do in school, on a ground school. Brought a knife, especially elementary schools, they frown upon that. So here's my knife. It's in a guard to keep it protected. And if you look here, you guys see this okay? So we have the handle and we have the blade. My fingers are down around the blade. I don't recommend you doing this at home, okay? But I just need to show you guys. So here is the bolster, the back of the knife right here. This is where your hands are gonna rest. So when you guys are cutting, and you're gonna see in the video, a lot of you may not be used to holding a knife correctly, okay? Well, the way I'm holding it now is not correct. So you're gonna grab it with your hand like so and get a good grip on it. And you always wanna choke down on the handle so that your hand is closer to the blade, okay? Like this, versus like this. See, there's so much handle still exposed. So you wanna get as close to the blade as you can and safely. And then you're gonna grab it nice and firm. And then this is how you're gonna hold your knife. You're not gonna take your finger and put it up here on the top. See that? That's a no-no. So we wanna avoid that, okay? So you just wanna hold it here. And basically what you're doing is you're getting closer to the blade, and the knife is now an extension of your arm. and that way you have more control. If you hold it back here, you have very little control. But if you hold it close to the blade, you're doing well. For cutting and supreming oranges, when I show you guys the video, you may want to focus on just using like the top 3 or 4 inches of your knife instead of the entire knife, because it's a little bit narrower at the end, and you're going to be able to go in between the membranes of the orange and remove the actual flesh of the citrus fruit easily that way, versus going in and trying to use the entire blade. So maybe you're just using the smaller part. And it's a small orange, it's not that big, so maybe you guys want to use a paring knife. If you have a really, really sharp paring knife, that will work just fine too. Otherwise, you can use a chef's knife. This knife here has a hollow edge. You can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it has little tiny divots in it. And what that does is it releases the suction. So this is called a Santoku knife. It's just a Japanese style knife. This is a global brand. The knives you're getting from the school are awesome, and they're going to be fine. But as you start to develop more skills, and as you start to use your knives a lot more, you may want to find a knife that fits your hand perfectly. So when you go knife shopping, it's important to hold the knives. And some stores, kitchen stores, will even allow you to use the knife on a cutting board and cut some vegetables just to see how it feels. And if you have that opportunity, then take advantage of it. But you want a knife that's going to be kind of, feel good in your hand, because it's something you might be using a lot on a daily basis, depending on your production system or facility that you're working in. So make sure that you shop for a knife that's comfortable. The knife you got from the school may be perfectly comfortable, and so that's the knife that you're going to use. That's going to be your go-to. But knives are really important for pastry chefs as well. So just use what's comfortable. A dull knife is like your worst enemy. One, it can slip and cut you, and it's not going to do a good job cutting through the fruit. And it makes things kind of messy, and we don't want that. So we want it to be nice, crisp, clean cut. Say that real fast. Crisp, clean cuts, and you guys will be thrilled with the results. So any questions about the knife? Yes, Sheila.
Yeah, Chef Paul, I have a knife that I just received at Sam's. It's like this little paring knife right here.
Okay.
Can we use that? Could I use that?
Absolutely. So you can use that too. If you want to use a smaller knife, that's fine. Just make sure it's sharp. That's all I ask.
Okay.
Right. And then when your toolkit arrives, for those that didn't receive it, then you can either choose between the paring knife or the chef's knife. It's some people have smaller hands and they don't feel comfortable with that giant knife, and that's fine. Save the big knife for big jobs. And then when you're supreming fruit or something like that, a paring knife is cool.
Okay.
They're all going to get the same results at the end. So I don't care what kind of knife you use, as long as it's sharp.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything, Chef Jen, before I start sharing?
Just remember that the knives that you get from the school are super, 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 super duper, excruciatingly super sharp. All it takes is bumping your skin, and you are going to end up realizing when that orange juice gets in there that you cut yourself. So it doesn't take, like some knives in my kitchen, you really have to push down to cut yourself. These, it's just a simple, touch, and you will realize you've cut yourself.
So how sharp are they, Chef Jen?
Super, 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 super sharp.
All right.
Ask me how I know.
I get your point.
Yes. I've cut myself many times on those.
Me too. You know what knife gets me is the serrated knives. I can play around with knives all day long. Somehow the serrated knife with those little jagged teeth, yeah, that's the one that gets me. And it's usually,
that one never gets me. It's just the straight blade, and I get myself every time.
Yeah, so be careful. No boo-boos, no Band-Aids, yuck.
No
all right.
emergency room visits.
No.
Keep your digits.
Amen. Okay, so I'm sharing, Chef Jen. Here we go. Okay, so if you guys take a look at can you guys see my screen okay? Okay, good. So when you look at your class page, it's going to look like this. Look over here on the right. You have your syllabus, Professional Baking by Wayne Gislin. So you have all your formulas in here. And sometimes throughout the class, I will post some different formulas. And when I say formulas, we're going to start saying formulas and not recipes now, because we're going to start moving into, don't get scared, but next week we're going to start talking about math. And it's good math, because this math can help you take a formula or a recipe from a small amount all the way up to a giant amount. So if you want to make baguettes for 30, you can make exactly 30 baguettes, not 35 and not 25. You make exactly 30 with this math. If you want to make 300 baguettes for a party, you can make 300, not 297. Okay, you're gonna make 300. Sometimes I like to make 301 so I can take one home. But at the same time, you want to understand Baker's math because it's gonna really allow you to hone in the size of the formula that you want to work with. And we're gonna talk about that in class next week. And I think I might do a live session over, like, maybe not this weekend, but next weekend. I'll do like a 1-hour class on the math too, just as a follow-up, so that if you guys have more questions about it, you can tune into that weekend class. I'll record that also, so it's just an extra bonus session that you guys can watch with more information on Baker's math. But we will go over it in class next week because it will be part of your assignment for week 2, in addition to the work that you'll be doing for week 2 as well. So, and Chef Jen and I are really good at the Baker's math, and we can't stress how important it is that you understand it. So just start getting in your head now. And when you think Baker's math, just think money, okay? Because you're making everything without waste and very precise. And that means that you have more money to spend on buying dough sheeters and really nice pieces of equipment for your bakery. So I think you guys will get a kick out of Baker's math. Once it clicks in your head, you're gonna be like, this is cool. And if you grew up hating math in school, like I wasn't a big math fan when I was growing up. I like science and things like that, go figure. But math was like one of those things that I feared. And when I got into culinary school and they're like, oh, everything's gonna be math, I was like freaked out. And then when I started understanding it and how I can make money by having everything precise, then it all started to click in. And it was actually a math that I could use for work instead of a math that I'd probably never use again in my life. So it made it even more exciting. And I hope you guys feel the same way that I do about it. Okay, but I'll make it as painless as possible and help you guys understand it along the way. And if you don't, I'll find 18 different ways of approaching this information so that you do understand it. So I'm very patient, so don't worry about that. So over here, you have a weekly inventory. You guys are welcome to look at that, but I will also talk about it in class each week. Your toolkit, you can open that up too, and it shows you what's going to be in the toolkit if you haven't received it already. This is for your grades, so you guys want to like click on that so that you can check in. Be responsible for your grades each week. I can't stress that enough. So always check in to make sure that your grades are what they're supposed to be. Not that we're going to alter or do anything like that, but you should be aware of what your grades are. You don't want any surprises like week 6, be like, why do I have a 40 average? What did I do wrong? You know, every week stay in tune with your grades so that you know exactly where you're at. And believe me, Chef Jen and I will be on top of your grades as well. So if something is missing, we will be like, hello, gotta get that in, okay? And I'll send out reminders too each week of when things are due, but here is a little window of some of that information here. Discussion forums. So discussion forums will be part of this class. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with those at all, a little bit from orientation, right? So discussion forums will give you a subject and you guys will leave a response, and then you will do 2 peer responses. You can do more than 2, but you're graded for your initial response and you're graded for your 2 peer replies. Those have to be in by Tuesday night. So here's our deadlines right here. Our Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. right here, okay? Except for week 12, things are going to be due on Sunday a little bit earlier because we wrap up that end of the block so you guys can move on to your next class. But we won't worry about that until a little bit later. So discussion forums, the first one starts in week 3. So we don't even have to think about that for the first 2 weeks. But I put this up here at the top of the page just so that you guys will have a reminder, okay? So make sure you pay attention to that. There are weeks 3, 5, 8, and 10. There will be discussion forums, and discussion forums weigh pretty heavily on your grade. So if you open up your syllabus, ta-da! Can you guys see the syllabus okay? All right, so we have a course overview here, and I'm not gonna read through the whole thing because this is an assignment you guys should be reading through, but I am gonna pull up a couple of the highlights that I want you to see, especially right here. Discussion forums are 15% of your total grade in this class. So not participating in the forums would be a bad thing. Don't you agree? 15%. Lab assignments, like this week, supreming an orange. Or next week, making pâte sucrée and pâte brisée. Those are pie doughs and sweet tart dough. That's 60% of your grade right there. All of those assignments. Knowledge checks. So each week you're gonna have knowledge checks, and then you'll have conversion checks too. So sometimes you'll have both. And those are things that are also due by Tuesday night. There's no grace period there. It's got to be Tuesday night or you get a 0 for it. So knowledge checks are quick. And the cool thing about knowledge checks, you can take them 100 times until you get the perfect score. And that I never understood why people don't do that. So sometimes I'll see like a perfect score would be 10, but I see like a 6. I'm like, why did you get a 6 when you can do it 400 times and get a 10? Okay, so make sure that you guys do well with the knowledge checks. And the knowledge checks are great because at the end of the course in week 12, you're going to have a final exam. And it has 50 questions on it. And those questions pertain to the knowledge checks. So if you do the knowledge checks faithfully each week and get that 10% of your grade, you're also gaining that extra knowledge for your final exam, which makes it a lot easier, right? So if you skip the knowledge checks, not only are you losing 10% of your total grade, but then your final exam is probably not going to do so well either. And then lastly down here is the final exam, which is 15% of your grade, which is really heavy. So let's do the math here, because you know how much I love math. If you were not to do, not that you're going to do this, but if you didn't do your discussion forums and you didn't do your knowledge checks, that's 25% of your total grade. So if all of your assignments were 100% in A's, you would still get a 75 in this class, which is a C. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So we're not going to do that, right? We're going to do our knowledge checks. We're going to make sure we participate in our discussion forums, and we're going to hand in our work on time each week. Yeah? Thumbs up? All right, good. Any questions on that? Not yet? Okay. So discussion forums, knowledge checks, final exam. So here are your grades. You can see A is a 90 to 100, B, and so on and so forth. We don't want to look at the lower part of this because we don't want to see any of that, right? So we want to stay at the top of this chart for sure. So start off strong and finish strong. So we have lecture, we have lab, we have homework outside of class. So that's your reading. Attendance policy. So you guys need to be active in class each week. Now, technically, you could log in once every 14 days to keep your attendance active, but after 14 days, you're withdrawn from the program. So why would you only log in once every 14 days? That's what I don't get. So you should be logging in constantly. You should always doing stuff, not just discussion forums and knowledge checks, but watching the live session archives or being here with me and Chef Jen in the live session. So all this counts towards your attendance, right? So you want to keep your attendance going. If you don't post attendance for 3 days, then Chef Jen and I start emailing you. It's like, where are you? Why aren't you posting attendance? And you don't want those annoying emails, okay? So let's stay in there, be very active. The more you're in the class, the more you're doing, the more you're asking questions from Chef Jen and myself, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to get out of it, okay? And I know we all have busy schedules, right? Because a lot of you guys are probably working 40 hours or more a week. You have families to balance, you have, you know, personal things going on, and then now you have this online school. So I say, like, yay for you for balancing all of this, and you can totally do it. And I did it too. When I was married and my son was little and I went to culinary school, my dad had just passed away like a couple months before I started culinary school, and there was just a lot of stuff going on. And I used all that stuff that was going on and pushed that into my schooling. And it helped me really get through things. And I focused a lot because I knew when I got out of school that I would be able to do the things that I've always wanted to do. And when I went to culinary school, right, it was before the Food Network. None of that stuff existed. So it was really important for me to become a chef. I didn't know I was a pastry chef at the time, but become something in the kitchen because I loved it so. And I just take any negative energy, anything like that, and try to stay positive. And I know it's not always easy, but if you guys can stay positive and focus on the school, get your work done, ask a million questions, get everything you can out of this program and onward, you guys are going to be so awesome in life. You know, when you're working in this field, it's just going to help you so much more. So I'm not going to go on that because I can go on that for like 12 years, but I'll cover more of it as we go through each week. But just know how passionate that I feel about you guys learning, and I really want you to absorb as much information as you can. So we can all agree that that's going to happen to the best of our ability. Yes? Okay. Again, interrupt me if you guys have any questions. Late policy. So everything is due on Tuesday night, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, always, except for weeks 12 when we have a class that's going to be ending a little bit sooner. So we won't worry about week 12 yet. Tuesday night, 11:59 p.m. So everything is submitted. Now you do have until Thursday night, same time, 11:59 p.m. Central Time, a late policy or a late submission period, you can submit your work up in that 48 hours after the actual on-time submission date ends Tuesday night. You can submit your work, but you will lose 15% because it's late. So your assignment may be perfect, but you will be getting an 85% for a grade on it. So that's a B. Not a bad thing, especially if you've had a lot of stuff going on that week and you still have that window to meet it. It's better than a 0, but at the same time, why not start early so that you can get your work in early. Getting your work in early allows for Chef Jen and myself to take a look at it and see if there's anything that is missing and giving you the opportunity to fix it before the actual due date. So that's something I highly recommend for everybody. So when this class ends today, I would go out and start buying my oranges and I would start supreming them. I would take pictures. I would start answering the questions that I'm going to go over for the narrative, and then get that done as soon as possible. Get it submitted. Let us take a look at it, and we can say like, oh, this picture's missing, or you could talk a little bit more about this part of the subject. Then you can do that and then get your grade up before it even is due. So can we all agree on that? Yeah, thumbs up. Thumbs up just lets me know that you guys are like listening. Okay, so make sure you go through your syllabus. Academic integrity, let me talk about that. All right, so academic integrity, this is something that's really important. Take the time to review the student handbook as well as the syllabus. So we started looking at the syllabus, but I want you guys to really read through it. Fabrication, using someone else's work and submitting. This is the part I don't like to talk about because it's, it's kind of like a little downer, and as positive as I love to be, these things do creep up in the program, and just by experience, I've seen it, so I don't want it to happen to you guys, okay? So using someone else's work as your own is a big no-no. And I think most of you guys probably know that already, but I have to say this, okay? So written material, no copying, pasting from somebody else and then using it as your own work. So make sure that you always, I'm not asking you guys to go crazy with APA format, you don't have to do that, but you should always let us know where you got the information from. So if it's out of your head, then it's out of your head. But if it's something that you copied from a different site, then make sure that you give us the link to that so that we can check it too, okay? So always give credit where credit is due. If you're taking something in Word, from somebody else. Photos will be the same thing, right? So you want your own photos. You're not gonna be taking photos from the internet. And here's an example of that. So yours may look like this. This one is from the internet. So make sure that you're using photos of your own work. I've seen it in the past where someone would try to slip in like something from the internet, and it's easy to check. So we can cross-check the photos. Not that that's gonna happen with you guys, but we just have to say, make sure that you submit photos of your own stuff. You should be proud of what you've made. And even if it's not awesome, like I was talking about earlier, just submit it because we wanna critique it and we wanna let you know. All right, so just make sure it's your own work. Pre-mixed products, no. And as you guys get to know me, you're gonna understand like the biggest thing that I can't stand in this world is Cool Whip. So I hope I didn't like hurt anybody's feelings, but hate the Cool Whip. Make your own whipped cream, and we'll talk about all that kind of stuff as we move through the program, right? It seems really basic, like, oh, whipped cream, that's easy. A little sugar, vanilla. It's a little complex, so we'll talk about why, okay? But it's better than Cool Whip. These things are a no-no. Moist cake mix, no box mix. We're gonna make pancakes in week 3. We're gonna make pancakes and crepes. So we're gonna make 2 different kinds of pancakes. You guys are gonna be in like carb heaven. We're not using Bisquick. You're gonna use flour and sugar and chemical leaveners and buttermilk and milk. So these things are gonna be making the most delicious pancakes you've ever had in your life. No Bisquick, no Aunt Jemima, none of that stuff. Cookies, we make cookies in class, not from a tube. I will talk to you about this whole tube thing, but no, you're gonna make your own. Pie crust, hey, guess what? I just talked about week 2. We're gonna make pâte sucrée and pâte brisée. Yeah, they're fancy French words for pie dough and tart dough, and I'll explain all of that stuff in week 2. But pie crust has to be made from scratch, never out of a box. And if you've ever had the box stuff, and once you make the scratch stuff, you're gonna be like, why did I ever buy the box stuff? It's gross. So it has its place in time, it has its place in commercial kitchens, but in school, we're gonna make our own. Puff pastry sheets, they're delicious. They're made with butter, Pepperidge Farms, probably the most popular brand. But you're also going to learn, not in this class, but while you're at school, you're going to learn how to make puff pastry, and you're going to make it from scratch, and you'll see a big difference. And you can control the ingredients because you're putting the stuff in. So no preservatives, right? You're going to be nice and fresh. So are we all clear with this? What's my favorite thing? Cool Whip? Nada. Working with others on your assignment. Now, a lot of you guys may have like a Facebook page where you have a group or something like that, and that's awesome for support and sharing your photos. But working on your assignment has to just be your work, okay? So nobody else in the house. When you guys are taking photos of all your work and stuff, if you have children or somebody in the house that you want to take a picture of them eating the product with like a nice face saying like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life, you can include that in your photos with your grade. That's kind of cool. And when you're doing your photo ID, which you have to do a new one each week when you submit your work, if you want to do that photo of you like eating one of the things that you made, that's cool too, okay? So that way we know it's different each week instead of the same pose doing the same thing each week. Shake it up a little bit, move around, okay? Make it fun. Collaboration. You may not complete or submit an assignment for another student or any of your family members. So say you're going on vacation and you did your assignment early, you can't have a family member submitting that work for you the next week. So that has to be on you. And if you guys are doing a vacation or anything where you're going to be away for a week, make sure you communicate with Chef Jen or myself on that so that we can talk about it and figure out a plan for you specifically, okay? Because things creep up, you know? All right. Are we cool on that? Yeah? Okay. Am I boring you yet? Not yet? All right. Give it time. Okay. So let's take a look at the assignment, right?
We actually have a hand raised real quick, Chef Paul.
Okay.
Teresa?
Hey, Teresa.
Hey, I was just gonna ask a quick question, but I figured it could wait. But we go on cruises a lot, and you have to pay for Wi-Fi, and it's expensive.
Yes.
So like if that were to happen, can we always like submit like a week early on our assignment or something?
Well, that's a really good question, and sadly, no. And the reason why is because you need to post attendance each week.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're posting the week before and then you're missing, even though you're on a cruise for the following week, we're not seeing any activity in class. So what I do recommend is have everything done early and loaded on your drive. Have your narrative, production sheets, everything done like you're going to submit it the week of. And then you may have to get your Wi-Fi on the cruise activated, even if it's for 10 minutes, just to submit the work from wherever you are at.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it has to be the week of. So we have a lot of students that go to like Europe, or they go, Caribbean, or they go to Mexico or whatever. So they have to do the submission wherever they are in the world. Okay.
All right, thank you, Chef.
You're welcome. Last fall, I was in Bora Bora in Tahiti on vacation for 2 weeks, and of course, I was still working. So I did that from my overwater bungalow, and it was so nice. And then we had a staff meeting too, and I was able to share my screen on my laptop with all the other instructors and mentors and evaluators, and I was able to show them around the whole facility that I was at. And then I was lucky enough to have a big sea ray swimming underneath our cabin or our bungalow, and I was able to get that and show them. So it was kind of like flapping its way, like you just see the big shadow of it. So I mean, wherever you can get a Wi-Fi, you guys, in the world, you can submit your work. And sadly, on a cruise ship, yeah, it can be expensive. All right, good question though. Here we go, assignment. So in this video, this is how we supreme an orange. So what I recommend is you go out and get yourself, like a navel orange is fine. You don't have to get anything fancy, right? Unless you want to, but you don't have to buy like the most expensive organic orange. You're just going to be segmenting this. Unless you eat an organic diet, just get a regular navel orange. Make sure it has a bright skin, okay? So make sure it's very orange. Make sure it's firm and not like collapsing on one side. So nice and firm. Try to find like the larger navel oranges. It makes it a little bit easier in the beginning. And as you get really good at this, you can try grapefruits too. For the assignment, just stick with the oranges. But if you want to segment a grapefruit, you can do that later on. And then when you get really good, you can do lemons and you can do limes. And they're really small, right? So here we go. So what we're going to do is take off the peel. So the outside is the zest, right, or the skin of the orange. Underneath is called the pith, P-I-T-H. That is that white bitter part that we all, don't really like to eat. But it's awesome candied. So that'll be another Oprah we can talk about. But you can candy all that stuff too. And then we expose the actual flesh. And if you look in this photo here at the beginning of the video, you see these little white lines running down the side. That's the membrane that connects all the flesh together. And what we are doing here is we're going to cut in between that, and we're going to remove the actual meat of the orange itself. And we call this supreming, which is French for superior or super. So think of it as superior or the best part of the orange, because it's actual part you can eat versus having the skin and the pith and the membrane and the seeds and all that stuff. So that's why we call it supreming, because it's superior. And it's very lovely on a salad. It's great for a fruit tart. It's great for a dessert presentation. It's just awesome all around. And you're going to present it just like this on a white plate. Doesn't have to be square. So the ends get removed. That way you have a flat surface to lay it down so it's not rolling all over the place. And you're going to follow the contour of the fruit, and you're going to remove the outside and that pith as well. And you're cutting in between all that little white membrane and releasing the actual citrus fruit itself. Some are a little bit wonky, like they're a little bit smaller, but hopefully you get a nice navel orange. I would recommend getting at least 2. And if you want to get more, you can. It's not like you're going to waste it. You're going to eat it, right? What I like to do with that juice is make a vinaigrette. So I always say this to everybody. I like take the juice and add a little bit of finely chopped shallot in there, or a tiny bit of garlic, some salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil, whisk that up, and you can make a really nice citrus vinaigrette. And put that on your citrus fruit, tossed with some like arugula or some baby greens or something like that. And make yourself a nice lunch with this assignment. So you can kind of tie in lunch with your work. That was fast, huh? All right. So what we're looking for, I know that was pretty quick. But what we're looking for here is you following the contour of the fruit and not having any of the white pith stuck on top. So here's like an example of, you can see here, here's one that's already had this everything removed. And so for your photo, show us a photo like this, okay? Show us all the stuff that's been removed. And then that way we can see the actual fruit itself. We want to see the peelings and all the stuff that you took off, so don't throw that in the trash. And then that way we can look and see how much flesh is still left on the skin. So that gives us a really good opportunity to critique that work, okay? And again, when we critique it, we're not out to get you. We're out to help you. So Chef Jen and I will be looking at it saying like, oh, you left a little extra flesh on here. Or let me see if I can find another example. Maybe, this one looks pretty good here. So you can see the edge is contoured. It still has the shape of the orange. If it were to be flat, here's a good picture right here. If you look at this one, see how that has the straight sides to it? Like here it's straight, straight, straight. It's almost octagonal. That's not following the shape of the orange. Have you ever seen an octagon-shaped orange? I don't think so. No. So you want to actually follow that shape as close as you can. And you guys are allowed to make mistakes. Don't worry if it's not perfect. And if you have an octagon, you have an octagon, okay? And that's the only orange you had, present it. That's fine, okay? Just know that next time you make it, it's going to be less octagonal shape. It's going to be a little bit more round. And then the next time you do it, it's going to get even better. And then finally, you guys are going to be doing this in your sleep. I have a sister. My baby sister is 43 years old. And she, when I go home, she's like, can you supreme an orange for me? Or can you supreme a grapefruit? And I show her every single time for 52 years, it feels like. And she's still like, can you supreme this for me? I forgot how to do it. And I'm like, if you just practice. And so she's spoiled that way with me. But it's really convenient and it's really beautiful when it's done correctly. So take your time and be careful with your fingers, right? So let's see. Also, setting up your station. I kind of did this a little bit backwards, but I want to show you. Have you guys met Chef Susie yet? Yeah, some of you may have. You may have met her in like orientation, or maybe she was kind of introducing herself, you know, like the rest of us. We did the big team introduction. So this is Chef Susie. She did a little video on how to set up your station. So this is another thing that we're looking for this assignment. Let's put a little music here. So we got your selfie. If you have some of that bar mat material, that works really well for your cutting board. And it just keeps your cutting board from slipping around. Because if you're trying to cut your orange and the board is sliding all over the counter, that's not very safe, right? So secure the board. A damp towel works really well, or that bar mat stuff you put under glasses and cabinets, that works really well too. And then here's a sanitizer bucket. And the solution is typically 2 cups of water to like a 1/4 teaspoon of bleach, like Clorox bleach or store brand bleach. Can't say that fast either. And that's going to be your sanitizer solution. In the class cafe, you guys can see that it's posted there as well. Chef Ann posted it. So it gives you that formula for the sanitizer. So you guys should have your sanitizer strips if you've received your toolkit. If you have not received your toolkit, you can use antibacterial wipes until you get them in. But make sure that those are in the photo too. So we have to see that. So here are the strips. And you're just going to dip them into the solution, and you're looking for a proper concentration. So it's between 50 and 100 parts per million. And if you look at the little vial that the little strips come out of, make sure that they stay dry. Like keep it away from the sink, because I've had students drop them in the sink and then ruin all of them. So keep them in their little vial. And then the color will match the center of the color chart on the vial itself. So photos of your station set up.
Chef Paul,
Yes.
real quick, we had a couple of questions about Clorox wipes, acceptable substitute for bleach or Lysol. You're allowing the Clorox wipes just until they receive their test strips, correct?
Right, then they need to go away. They're only as an emergency backup.
So it needs to be bleach and water for your sanitation solution, no other options.
Right. So Clorox or any store brand bleach mixed with water. So it's typically 2 cups of cold water and a 1/4 teaspoon only of bleach, and that will be good for your concentration. You may have to adjust a little bit, so maybe it needs a tiny bit more bleach, so just double check the color on the actual tape when you guys are looking for that concentration. And then set that up on your counter. You can also put it in a spray bottle. So you can mix that solution up, put it in a spray bottle, still got to show the tape next to the bottle, but you can use the spray bottle to spray down your station and keep things clean that way instead of using the bucket. So I'm okay with that too. Right, Chef? So spray bottle, some people like that. Label the spray bottle. Don't empty out a Windex bottle or Fantastic or 409, because that's wrong, right? Because you don't want that around food. So go ahead and get a new plastic bottle. Sometimes people use them for ironing to like spritz the clothes or whatever. So get a little plastic spray bottle. Make sure you label it. Put a sticker. It could be masking tape or a P-touch around the outside saying that this is your sanitizer solution. And then make sure that you spray it on the little tape so that we can see the concentration each week. Or use the bucket like Chef has here. This is a red sanitation bucket. They're usually like $1.99 at any restaurant supply store, or you can order them online. And then this is a true sanitation bucket. And then a damp towel that you can wipe down things, and a dry towel should be in your setup. And then you see here's a cutting board. There's your orange, there's your plate, and there's your knife. You want to also keep the knife so that it's facing maybe upwards on the top of your cutting board, like picture it as a clock. So have the cutting board in front of you, and then make sure you're in your school uniform, and then you have a hat on, okay? And then go ahead and make sure your knives are at the top of the cutting board with the blade facing away from you. It's much safer than having the handle sticking out anywhere where maybe like a child will walk by and hit the handle, or you may bump into it as well and have it spin around and cut you. So they're really sharp, like Chef Jen said in the beginning. So make sure the knife is in a safe place. So photos of your mise en place. So yes, even your knives and your plates are your mise en place in this case. Picture of your hand holding the knife properly, like I showed you earlier. And then document your process by taking pictures of all these steps along the way. So don't forget to do that. You can even have somebody in your house take photos of you while you're doing it if you want to, or you will just have to stop and wipe your hands and do it each step of the way. So you see chefs using a paring knife here, and that's fine. And you're following the shape of the orange. And don't worry if you miss a little bit of the white part on the bottom, as you see the chef did here, because you can flip it over and then go in the opposite direction just to clean it up. Pictures of the cast-offs, I call them. So that's the skin and the pith off to the side. Some people feel more comfortable supreming an orange on a surface like chef's doing here, and some people feel more comfortable doing it in their hand. I personally do it in my hand, but if you're more comfortable with a knife and it's really sharp, doing it down there, then do it that way. However you feel is most safe for you. More photos. We love photos. Okay, and then present them on the plate. You can do a spiral, you can do them in straight rows, but don't put them in a pile because we need to see them individually. Finished product. Okay, any questions on supreming an orange?
We do have two hands up. Teresa has her hand up, and so does Regina.
Teresa.
Yes, Chef. I had a question about when you're using your claw grip to hold it steady, how do you not squish it?
When you're using your claw grip?
Yes, sir.
How do you not?
No, when you're holding the orange, I don't know. It was in the other photo that you showed.
Oh, when you're holding it in your hand and cutting?
When you're peeling the skin off, the first video you showed, the man was holding, I don't know how to.
Chef, it's where you're tucking your fingers back to where you're not cutting your fingers. It's really not a tight grip on the orange, Teresa. It's more of just a stability to keep it from rocking and rolling on you.
Okay.
So you're just lightly holding onto it and then just peeling down the side.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, just enough to hold it. You're not squeezing hard or anything like that.
All right, thank you, Chef.
Not until you get all the segments out, then you can squeeze it really hard and then take those juices and make a vinaigrette, like I said. Drink it. All right, cool. Regina was next.
Yes, hi, Chef.
Hey.
My question is, when you're cutting the orange after you take the peel off, do you go according to each piece of orange where you make your incisions, or does it depend? Does it matter how big you make your slices?
You want to get the maximum amount of flesh out of each segment. So you want to go just in between all those little white membranes that you see, the little lines around the outside when you cut off that skin and that pit. You want to get as close as you can to the membrane without picking up the membrane.
Okay.
So get the most you can out of each segment. And again, they're not all going to be, it's nature, right? Nothing's going to be perfect. So you may get 8 or 10 or 12 segments depending on the size of your orange. And out of the, say you get 8, maybe 2 of them are going to be the little peewee ones because they were kind of like tucked in on the side. You can include those too. So what we're looking for is to make sure that the edge is nice and contoured and round. We're also looking to make sure that there's no membrane stuck on the actual segment itself. And that's why we want to see the cast-offs or the peelings on the side in your photo, so that we can look and see how much flesh or no flesh is left on that product.
Okay, thank you, Chef.
You're welcome. And is it Sutia? I'm going to say it wrong. You're muted.
Sutia.
Sutia?
Yes.
Okay, got it. I was trying to be all fancy. You got a question?
My question was with the test strips.
Yes.
You said we could use the bottle, but if I use the bottle, do I still have to pour it out every day and then remake it every day? Because I know the picture wanted it 100 degrees. So do I have to?
No, that's fine. You can go ahead and squirt or spray your strip and then show the concentration on it, so that and match it up to the 50 to 100 parts per million on the little vial. And then what I would do is change out the sanitizer in the bottle. I would change it out every week, once a week.
Okay, because that's what we had to do when I was teaching. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Maria?
I wanted to know, how long can we save the peels to candy them?
Oh, well, that's something. If you guys want to candy the peels, you can cut them into little 1/4-inch strips after you remove them from the orange. And if you just boil them in clean, fresh water, not that you're going to boil them in dirty water, I don't know why I said that, but you're going to boil them in clean water for about a minute, and then you throw the water away, and then you put new water in, and you boil for another minute, and you throw the water away. And you do that about 4 or 5 times. You got to keep throwing the water away, because that's where all the bitterness is hanging out now, because you're extracting it from that. And then once you've done that about 4 or 5 times, then you make something we call simple syrup, and that's equal parts sugar and water. And this is not part of the assignment, you guys, but it's something fun to do if you have the time. So you make simple syrup. So say a cup of water, a cup of sugar, boil just.
Yeah, I know how to make that.
I know you do, but maybe somebody else might want to do it. Right?
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
So go ahead and boil, and then until the sugar is dissolved, and then you can put your citrus slices that you made in that syrup and just let it poach really slowly, not boiling or anything like that, but just a couple bubbles coming up here and there until it becomes almost clear or translucent looking. And then you are candying your orange peel. And then from there, you can let it dry out on the counter, like on a little rack, and it gets really nice and chewy and candy-like. You can even toss it in a little sugar, which coats the outside, and that makes for a wonderful garnish on a dessert, or if you just want to snack on something. You can dip them in chocolate and eat chocolate-covered orange peels that way. You can even take the sugar that you kind of soaked the fruit in when it was, kind of candying and hanging out and drying out. And that sugar now has that orange flavor, so you can use that sugar in your cookie formulas or your cakes or your icings. So there's a lot you can do with the candied citrus. But we'll definitely go into stuff like that in your time here at school. But that's just kind of the gist of, how to candy citrus. You can Google it too, like, how do I candy orange peel? And they'll say the same thing I just told you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Always, you're welcome. Good
And
question.
then Sin has a question.
Yes, Sin.
Hi. So about the cutting of the orange, how do I see she just picked the space and started, but is there like a soft spot to start the peel when you're slicing it? Or is like how do you know when and where to start? Because I'm not good at cutting oranges. I will take all the meat off,
Okay.
thread.
Well, that's why I'm hoping you guys will buy more than one, okay, just in case. So always have your practice one. And take pictures of the practice one too, because you can always put those in a separate file, so that we can look at them. Like, this was my first one, and now look at my third one, how awesome it is. So cut off the ends first, but don't think, I don't know how much to cut off. That's a good question. So maybe go in like about a ½ inch or so off each side, and you just want to expose the top and bottom of the fruit so you can actually see all those little segments in there. And then you will see how thick the skin is after you do that, and you'll know exactly how close to stay to the fruit and the actual white part of the pith when you're removing it that way. But you got to open up the sides first. So the top and the bottom, you saw those got lopped off. That keeps it nice and stable on the table, and then you can go ahead and remove the sides carefully that way. And I'd say just practice. First one, maybe you will remove a lot of the flesh, and then the second one's going to get better, and the third one will be even better.
So when I'm slicing, do I follow the curve of the orange or do I just slice straight down?
Oh no, you always follow the contour of the fruit. Otherwise, your slices are going to look like a hexagon or a stop sign or octagon or a triangle or the state of Florida. You know, it's going to be all wonky. So you want to you want to keep it as stay with the shape of the fruit is what I'm saying.
Hope it ain't no Floridians in here. No, they just got massacred.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let me just show you the last thing I wanted to show you. And I know this class is running over an hour, but usually the first one does. And then we'll be between 45 minutes and an hour for each one, depending on how many questions you have. So
we have 2 more with their hands raised.
Okay, let's have them.
Sutia?
Sutia?
Yes. I just wanted to say I had did my homework assignment as soon as I put it up for practice. And 5 oranges later, I finally got it. So yes, definitely have a lot of oranges. And after you do the top and bottom, the orange pretty much tells you where to cut it. So after your top and bottom cut, from there, I just followed the roundness of the orange. But it did take 5 oranges to finally get it to look perfect. And it was a little rougher than I thought.
A little, yeah. You know, it sounds really easy, right? But when you do it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for doing it early and for doing 5.
And then, forgive me if I butcher your name, but is it Jayana?
It's Jay Rihanna.
Jay Rihanna, okay.
That's easier.
I just had a quick question about the knives. Where can I find like a good knife sharpener? In my recent culinary class, they had like a whetstone, I think it was called, but I wanted to know where I could find like a good knife sharpener at.
Well, there's one. It's I think it's Chef Master or Chef Mate. It's an electric knife sharpener, and they can range anywhere from $75 to like $150, depending on the kind of knives you want to sharpen. Like Japanese knives are sharpened differently than German knives because of the way that the blade is aligned up. So there's a couple things. Do you want to sharpen it yourself or have it professionally done?
I would just want to know to sharpen it myself, but we probably won't be needing knives that much, though, would we? Just
no, you're going to use like a serrated knife is really important in this class for like cutting through breads and stuff. And then for this class, we're going to be making, we'll have some tarts. We have pot au choux, which I'll explain all that stuff if you guys don't know what it is later. I'm just trying to think of, you're making some custard. So using your knives, not too much.
Okay.
No, this is the big one this week, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Right. But they do sell a lot of handheld knife sharpeners, and some are better than others. And you can use a whetstone as well, because that's like the professional way of doing it. And I have a lot of knives at home too, and I have one of those automatic knife sharpeners, and it works quite well. But sometimes I just take them to like my local farmer's market. There's always a knife sharpener there, and they'll charge like $3 a blade, or some charge by the inch of the blade, and they'll do scissors and lawn tools and all that kind of stuff too. So I just kind of bring a whole rolled bag full of all my knives, and while I'm shopping at the farmer's market, I let them take care of it. And I may sharpen like a dozen knives all together and scissors and stuff, and you know, they'll charge me like $40 or something like that, and they're beautiful. They do like such a great job, even better than I can do. So you know, if you have someone in your neighborhood or farmer's market where you can do that, that's pretty cool.
Okay. But
you can also do it yourself, yes. Any other questions?
Kaylee and Sin.
Kaylee, what's up?
Hi, Chef.
Hey.
I was just wondering, in the Google Drive, in the Escoffier assignments, those unzipped files, I go through that and everything's empty. So is that like where we put our assignments, where we upload them and then we share them with you?
Yeah, well, I'm going to pass the torch to Chef Jen because she's going to be grading them. Chef Jen, how would you like to see these assignments?
Honestly, I believe they have it to where it's set up like week 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. I would like to see you put each one in the week that it is. And then when we get to the more complex lessons, like week 3 when we're making 2 different kinds of pancakes and crepes, I would like to see y'all set up individual folders inside week 3 and put the crepes in one, the buttermilk pancakes in one, and the regular pancakes in one. Only because that one's going to have what did we count? What, 20-something pictures, Chef
Yeah.
Paul?
Oh, easily or more.
Yeah, and there is no way I'm going to be able to clearly decipher which one is which without spending hours sorting through your pictures. So if you could just put them in the weekly folder, and then from there, you know, subfolders if need be, that would be very helpful.
Definitely.
All
And
right.
with your photos, when make sure they're in a file for Chef Jen and myself to look at, because otherwise, if you do a link for each individual photo, even for these knife cuts, you may have your mise en place, you have your photo ID, you have your sanitizer, you have your cutting board station set up, and then you may have like a dozen pictures of the process of cutting the orange. So if you were to supply us with 16 links to go through each thing separately, we would be sending you a message saying like, you got to get this compiled into one folder so that we can just open it up and see all the photos at the same time. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
once you put it in that folder, you can just share the link to that folder. And don't forget to make sure that it is, the share settings is set to anyone can view. Because if I get links that says access denied, you're going to be hearing from me, and I'm going to bug you until the last day possible to get those fixed. Okay?
Okay.
And I'll be bugging you too, so you'll be double bugged. I'll be like, what's up? So what I would do is submit your work. And if you have questions about it, you know, you can ask us, of course. You can also ask, student support is really helpful when it comes to this. But, you know, a lot of times you can figure it out yourself, right? And I know if you guys go to student support, if you like click on that at the bottom of your page, it's always like highlighted in red, like help, it says help. You can look, and there's a lot of like preloaded questions in there, and you can just click on those. A lot of times your questions will be answered before you even have to pick up the phone. So if you guys take advantage of that, that's awesome. And then you can ask myself or Chef Jen, and then we can go from there. And I think, is Michelle still here? Michelle,
Yes.
hey, so what do you think of that? So they should go and maybe do a little like self-evaluating, like sniff around that a little bit first, because a lot of the questions are already in there.
I'm sorry, Chef Paul, did you ask me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of those concerns or issues with like submitting links, they're in the help center. And so you can pretty much go to each individual one. If you're still struggling after that to submit the links or create those individual folders that Chef Jen was talking about, you can either reach out to the coaches, we can connect you to student support, or you can connect, you know, directly to them. But those things should be located in the help center.
Thank you, Michelle.
No problem.
All right, good stuff. So is there another
So
question?
Sin and Teresa.
All right, Sin.
I have this handheld knife sharpener. It's actually portable. It's a keychain, but it sharpens both ceramic and steel knives.
Okay.
Is this something that I can use to sharpen my knife?
Absolutely.
Like,
if it works for you, then I'm not going to say no. Yeah, use it.
it's like my favorite tool. I've had it for years.
Okay, good.
It's
Yeah.
got-
Why would I separate?
I got this off Wish.com for $1. So if anybody wanted to know, I got this off Wish.com for $1, and it's for all knives and shears.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
My other question was, shoot, in regards to uploading the pictures and stuff, is there a way that we can get back into like the orientation section where it showed us how to link the Escoffier information to our computers and stuff for those of us that's got to get new computers and whatnot? Because I need like the page and then the actual folder and the extraction and how to upload that to the folder from my laptop, because I was doing it all from my phone and tablet at first.
Michelle, do you know if that's available? It should be.
It should be.
Yes, that should be. I will, I'm going to post a couple of links for submitting for the desktop as well as for mobile. We would prefer you do it from actual computer. So I'll give you some links here in a minute that I'm going to paste there in the chat section for you to click on.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Michelle. And Teresa.
All right, I don't have a question. It was just about the knife sharpening, how you were talking about farmer's market. But when we were in orientation, Chef Chanel also suggested you could go to the deli part of a grocery store and kind of like make friends with the butcher there and ask them if they could sharpen your knives, so you could pay them to sharpen your knives or whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really good tip. And I remember one of the supermarkets that I have here in Los Angeles, they have a sign that says we do knife sharpening here. So that's cool. I didn't know if it was free. I just saw like, oh, that's really odd that they do it here, but that's really amazing. Why not have knife sharpening?
Also, if you go to any meat department in a grocery store, they have someone that comes about every 6 weeks and does all their knives. And usually, if you can catch him, he'll do your knives for, like, I had mine done for $3 a knife, and they were like brand new after he did it.
So that's another good tip. It's probably the same guy that goes to your supermarket that goes to my farmer's market.
Oh no, I'm in North Carolina. It'd be a long haul for him.
He likes to commute. All right, awesome. Good tips. So I wanted to show you the narrative questions, and then we can wrap up, okay? So let's take a look at your assignment. So if you guys look down here, these are your narrative questions. So if you click on the actual assignment, kitchen setup and knife skills, right here. So we need a picture of your workstation in temporary dress code or your full uniform, okay? Kitchen before setup, work surface with secured cutting board like you saw in the video, sanitizing bucket with strip, or it could be the spray bottle, okay? Make sure you show the strip with the concentration. If you don't have it in the delivery yet, then you can use as a backup only the Clorox wipes, those are Lysol wipes, as long as they're disinfecting wipes, and you show that photo in your mise en place. Sanitizing bucket, okay, side towel, resting on the top, cutting board, blade facing away from the board. So you don't want the blade facing you, you don't want the blade facing up. So make sure it's in the back of the board facing away so people won't bump into it. Mise en place, knife held properly. So a picture of your hand wrapped around the knife properly. Proper peeling of the orange, and then finished product, supreme orange segments on a clean plate for presentation. So any questions about that part? Nope. And then here are the questions. Boom.
I have questions, but I could not find my raise hand button. I'm sorry.
Okay.
About the picturing of us holding the knives or whatever, how do you want that pictured? Is that with the full hand facing, or how are we supposed to take that picture? Do we hold it out like in front of us and take the picture that way? Like,
yeah, that's fine. You can hold it out in front. Maybe even a couple pictures if you want to show a couple different angles. Just hold it in. And again, if someone else is in the house can take the picture for you, if you feel uncomfortable trying to balance a knife and take a picture at the same time, then have someone else do it. And whatever you guys do, I know we only see like the upper part of you. Make sure that you are not barefoot in class or wearing socks. Make sure that you're wearing proper shoes in the kitchen like you would in a professional kitchen. Because if that knife hits the floor and you're in your bare feet or socks, you might lose a toe, okay? So make sure that you, and sometimes I see students take pictures like from above of their product on the counter, but they don't realize that their feet are in the picture. And that's the first thing we're gonna look at. We're gonna be like, okay, you're not wearing shoes in the kitchen, you know? I walk around my house barefoot all the time, but I'm in the kitchen, I always have something on. I'm not crazy. Because I've dropped knives before. I've done it. Can you guys see my screen okay? Okay, so this is what you're gonna answer. What do you think, and then you're gonna add this in. You can do this, you guys can add this in if you wanna do it like in Google as a, I guess as a sheet. Chef Jen, how would you like this submitted? Answering the question. So you have all the photos in a file, and then now you're going to answer these questions. So this is kind of like your narrative for week 1. We're going to really get into the narratives for week 2 next week. But right now, you can do this.
I would say just do a Google Doc, copy these questions, and then paste them, and then answer them, but please use full sentences. I have a 12-year-old, and I can read some partial sentences, but if I get a real full sentence, I can definitely work through it and understand more, because the more detail you give me, the better I can understand what you're doing, because I'm not in the kitchen with you as you're cutting it. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So just copy these questions, then put your answer down below it and submit it as a Google Doc, and I will know that that's your narrative for these questions.
Okay, good. And then you're going to answer these with full sentences. What do you think you were supposed to understand or work on this week? Well, I was supposed to understand supreming an orange, and then so you can talk a little bit about that. What was positive about your experience? I get to hone in my knife skills. I got to do something I haven't done before, you know, so elaborate a little bit more on that. What sort of issues or challenges did you experience when working on this assignment? So you can say, maybe my cutting board was warped. Maybe my knife wasn't sharp enough. Maybe I need to practice this a little bit more to get it perfected. How long did it take you to do the assignment? And be honest here. We're not looking for people racing and cutting yourselves. It could take you an hour. Honestly, this project could take a couple hours. If it takes you 20 minutes, that's great too. If it takes you 10 minutes, fine. Just remember, if you say, well, it took me 5 minutes, but it looks like a stop sign when you're done, we're like, well, maybe you should have spent a little bit more time doing it, right, to perfect it. I'm not asking you guys to buy a dozen oranges, but at the same time, if you can get at least 2 or 3, that would be great, because by the time you get to the third one, you'll see a difference. And then you can kind of document that too for your grade. Is there anything that you would have done differently? I would have made sure my knife was sharper. I would have bought fruit that was a little bit more firm. You know, it could be something like that. And any other comments or observations about the assignment? You know, so you can just kind of summarize what you learned in that experience. Ta-da! That's all she wrote. So that's it. So you're going to answer the questions. You're going to do your photo ID. You're going to have your sanitizer. You're going to have your clean station. You're going to have your knife in proper position. And then you're going to document the segmenting or supreming of the orange from beginning to end, showing pictures of the peel and then of your segments presented on a nice little plate. And I want you guys to start thinking about presentation. So I know it's a little early, but it's never too early. So for this week, present it nicely on a plate. You can do a little garnish if you want to, but we just need to see the segments, so nothing covering them up. And as we move forward, everything you present, I want you to think of like Chef Jen and myself as your customer. So when you're presenting something to us to be graded, present it in a way that you would give it to a customer so that we can see, you know, your mindset and start practicing on our plating and all those important things that you're going to want to know as you go through the program. So does that make sense? All right. So that's it. So when is everything due?
Tuesday night before 11:59, but that's not exactly right. Get it in as soon as possible.
Thank you for correcting that. I was going to say everything is due the minute I shut my mouth and stop talking. Okay, so the minute we stop this class, it is due. The absolute deadline is Tuesday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. No exceptions, right? So it's got to be in. Get it in early. Don't wait until the last minute, because then you're rushing, and we can see that. So the earlier you get it in, the faster we get to look at it, we get to grade it, you get to move on. Okay?
The one thing I would like to suggest is build yourself in a 2-day buffer, meaning shoot for Sunday night at 11:59. That way when life happens, because I'm going to promise you, it will. Every time. I've got 6 kids, so trust me, life happens a lot around here. So if you build that 2-day buffer in, you're automatically going to have 48 hours to get it done when life happens. There's no sense in having to take advantage of the late submittal time, because you cheat yourself out of 15 points by doing that. So if you bump your deadline up to Sunday, then you got Monday and Tuesday as your buffer days to still get it in on time, and I can give you full credit for being on time. So is everybody good with that?
Yes, Chef.
Yes, Chef.
All right.
Just like Chef Chanel said last night, you literally have 7 days to get it done.
Right. And everybody's internet goes down at 11:49 on Tuesday nights. So if we trick our computers to think it's all due on Tuesday night, then Sunday night we won't have any problems getting it submitted.
Amen to that. What else? Any other questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, the question I asked before about the candied peels.
Yes.
What I wanted to know is, after I do my oranges, how long can I keep those peels, or should I do it immediately?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. You know what? I totally went like to the end of that question. So once you do the peels, you can wrap them in a little like plastic baggie or something and keep them in the refrigerator for a day or two. That would be fine. They're going to start to shrivel up and not be so useful. Yeah. Otherwise, they end up in the compost pile.
True.
Which is not a bad thing. Any other questions? So remember, Chef Jen and I, when you guys are submitting your assignments, we will be grading them as fast as possible. Chef Jen is very efficient. She's very thorough. And but remember, we have 72 hours. So when you submit it, there's a 72-hour window where we have to make sure that those are graded. Capiche? So don't expect the minute you submit it to always have it graded within 5 minutes, although we tried to get that done as fast as possible. But Chef Jen also has other classes too, which is, as much as we like to think you're our babies, you're not. So we have some other ones too that we have to keep an eye on. But we promise you that they will be graded in a timely manner as they come in. First come, first serve. Get them in fast, right? Get them graded quickly.
Yes, Sid.
Please don't be mad, because the question is for you. Is class tomorrow at 5 or at 7? Because I got 2 different emails.
Which class?
CE 115. It's for Jen. I'm sorry.
It's at 5.
Okay. Because I had got like 2 different emails. I was like, I don't know what time to be in class tomorrow. And because you're here, I was like, let me ask now.
Yeah, most of y'all are going to.
Chef. You know, another person.
Most of y'all will see me in your CE 115 class, and I'll also be your evaluator over there. So you're going to get used to hearing my voice and seeing my mug. So.
Are you the evaluator in 165 as well?
No, not 165.
Oh, okay, that's the one I'm in.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's doing 165.
I don't know
We
either.
have leave one final comment, please, for the class.
Sure.
So the class has gotten together, and we have designed a Facebook group for studying and picture sharing. The Facebook group is called Amazing Pastries. It is for everyone that is an Escoffier student or chef teacher. If you all would like to join us and help us out, please sign up. If you all are already friends, invite your friends, because I can't invite everybody. I tried. But for the most part, it's about 15 people that's already in there. So thank you all, and it's there. You guys asked, it's there.
That's great that you have that, and I love that you guys can all share your photos in there. But I also encourage you guys to share some photos each week as we go through. In the beginning of class, what we'll do is we'll spend about 10 or 15 minutes reviewing the week before. So if there's something you want to show, like share your screen and take 30 seconds or whatever, that's fine, so that we can see it in class. And then
Do we
I would love.
in the screen share? Like, how do we share our screen to you so you can share it with everybody?
When you share your screen, if you look down at the bottom of your screen right now, you see a little green box with an arrow pointing up that says share screen. So don't click on that unless we talk about it first, okay? Because it'll automatically take the control out of my hands, and I'm a control freak. So what I like to do is, when you guys say like, oh, I'm going to share something, is that okay? Then I'll say absolutely, and then you'll share your screen. See. That's how that works.
And then we have one other question, Kylie or Kaylee.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I noticed that there's like a narrative production sheet on the Google Drive. Is there a way that we can edit that, and do we fill that out, or do we just kind of go by those questions? And,
You're going to go by those questions, and the narrative production sheet, the more formal one that you guys see that has places for all your tastes and comments and challenges and things like that, that we will talk about for next week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so for this week, just a Google Doc is fine. Put the questions in like Chef said, and then answer them. Full sentences, right? No text speak. Yeah.
No, because I'm not up to par on the text speak. I always have to go to my 11-year-old and say, what does this mean? So.
Yeah. Use your real words.
Like LMK or LOL or IJS, none of that?
Okay. Please, no.
No, I want you guys to start thinking of like menu writing eventually, and
resume writing.
Exactly, resume writing. So we wanted to keep it really professional. So use your real words, and spell check is awesome.
Yeah, I was just looking at places I can put in for my externship in Atlanta, and the Four Seasons has 2 openings for pastry. So.
Oh, North Beach is beautiful. That was one of my choices when I moved here. I love it. I think that is it.
Another question to both Chef Jen and Chef Paul.
What's
As
up?
far as externship, getting like involved in our craft right now, do you suggest that we go and find somewhere to work that will like train us for right now? Or would you prefer we learn the information first, or what's the best way to get all the information I can get? Because I'm a really hands-on learner, but I want the book reading too.
Okay, so here's what you're gonna do. So, and I'm glad you brought that up. So, you ever heard of staging? It's spelled stage, S-T-A-G-E, but it's stage. And that is when you go and start working in other bakeries or facilities, restaurants related to what you're doing in school. And so you can go and ask people like, hey, and if only maybe it's one day a week, and you can say, I'll work for you for free, I just want to learn. And a lot of people like that, okay? Or they'll just pay you minimum wage or something. That doesn't count as your externship because that's at the end of the program, but it could turn into your externship by the time you finish school. So it's always good to start looking now. And the more real experience you get along with your schooling tied in together, the better it's going to be. So not only are you getting experience by doing this work at home that we're asking you to do, and by doing all your reading and research and participating in class each week, but if you start to do a little bit of extra on the side, that could turn into a full-time job. So it's up to you.
So with the externship, do we expect it to be paid or unpaid?
They're paid. No, they're paid. Externships will be paid. Okay. Yeah. And they will be 6 weeks long, and you'll be asked to work a minimum of 30 hours a week, and it's treated just like a class with your attendance and participation. And then we'll definitely go over more stuff about externship as you guys get a little bit closer, but it doesn't hurt to start thinking about it now. And then doing a little staging, like I'm saying, just go work in some places, even if it's just for a weekend once, you know, so that you can see what's going on there. That's really great.
The doors are giant.
Otherwise, what if you wait till the end and you're like, oh no, now I'm panicking, I have to find an externship, and then you have to pick whatever comes along, and maybe that's not something you really want to do. So start shopping early is what I say.
Okay. Treat it like
Does it have to be where we live?
What was that?
I said treat it like
externship. Does it have to be where we live, or can?
Well,
I'm in North Carolina, but I know several different bakeries.
It doesn't have to be where you live, but it has to be convenient for your life, right? So you don't want to be commuting and doing.
Well, I got family there. I would go there for the 6 weeks.
Okay. It doesn't have to be where you live, no.
Yeah, we've had some students actually.
Really here.
Maria, you're breaking up. Was that Maria?
Yeah.
No, it went out. I didn't hear what she said.
Oh, you were breaking up. We couldn't hear you.
Oh, I said, no, it wouldn't be a problem going up to New York, because when I go up there in the summer, sometimes I stop like at the bakeries I worked at, and I'll work with them like 2 or 3 weeks.
No, that's totally cool. But for your externship or internship, when you guys do that, it needs to be at the end of the program. So anything you do in between now and then could lead into that internship, or it could, it's just going to give you more experience. So I'm not ever going to say no to experience. Go do what you got to do. It doesn't matter where it is.
I want the job you had at Universal.
Oh, that was a great job. Yeah, I still think of that fondly. I love that. That was from 95 to 2000. I was there.
Isn't that in Studio City?
It is in Universal City, which is next to Studio City where I lived.
Okay, I still live that way. I'm going to go there. I'm going to get that job.
I don't know who has it now. It's been so long. But.
One more thing. Okay, so I live in St. Louis, Missouri. It's kind of like, it used to be really big with like the Hostess Bakery, but they have since shut down from being here, manufacturing and producing. I really want to get into like the making the cakes and the fondants and stuff, but we don't have a lot of that here. So like, what would you suggest that I do for that? Because we don't have like a lot of pastry bakeries here.
You may have to travel. You may have to leave the state if it's feasible to do something like that if you want to. And keep in mind, if you're going to do something like that, like biting on the bullet of doing a 6-week internship, and you have to leave your state, they're probably going to want to train you and keep you. You know, if you're a great employee and it's a really good fit for both of you, they will want you to stay. So, because you can imagine training somebody for 6 weeks and then saying like, okay, I'm done, I'm moving on now. you know, that's costly and it's inconvenient for the owner of the business. So without harping on that too much, you gotta, you know, think what works for you. I mean, you can practice and do all those things and learn at home as well. But if you want to work in a bakery that's dealing with fondant, you may have to, you know, go somewhere else to do that, even temporarily for like 6 months or something.
And student services also are, career services, let's shift from the first to the last. They have ways of helping you locate bakeries and pastries and all that are within your area. So once you start working with your externship coach, they will definitely be able to help you find those places.
Okay.
And put you in contact with
Thanks,
some people.
guys.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in a small town and you know what you know, like what's there, then you know, you're just gonna have to research and go outside of
Say St. Louis is small, it's just picky.
Yeah.
What state are you in?
St. Louis is a big city.
Yeah, it's not small, it's just picky. So I probably have to end up somewhere like Plaza Frontenac or Ladue or something to actually find a patissier, which is kind of far from where I'm at.
No, but if that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. And you know, it's all about the experience again. Like I said, I iced cakes for 6 months straight. I thought I was gonna cry every day. It was like so boring, but I got so good at it. So covering cakes and fondant, not an easy thing to do. That definitely takes.
Well,
practice.
my end game is cupcake wars, so that's my end game, cupcake wars. I'm trying to win that.
I love it. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap up. See, we went like an hour and 36 minutes, so that's a little long, but that's okay because you guys had a lot of great questions. So next week we'll keep it into an hour, and if we have to, because you guys are a big class and very chatty, which I love, we can also do like a special class. So maybe on a weekend we'll just say like, let's do an hour class on whatever you want to talk about pertaining to school, pertaining to a particular subject that we're covering in class, or baker's math. You know, so those are all things that we can do like special classes, and those would be recorded too for those of you that can't make it, but that might be something, just because of the size of your class, it might be a little bit better for everybody. So we do like a bonus session once in a while. If you guys are into that, just let me know. Okay. Yeah.
Are you doing one this weekend?
Not this weekend, because guess who's getting stuff organized for his move? But I'll definitely do one next weekend for the baker's math and then some. Yeah. My weekend is booked.
Well, have fun packing.
Yeah, it's emptying out a storage unit from hell. It's so big. You know, when families pass away and they leave you all their stuff, you have to put it somewhere. And now it's like purging and seeing what's going to make the trip and what's going to be sold and all that kind of stuff. So fun times.
Put it all out on the line. Garage sale. Fantastic.
There's that too. Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. It's like you can't bring everything from the 50s and 60s to the now late 2000s.
No, not everything. Although I'm from the 60s, so I have to bring myself, right?
I'm gonna let you have that one.
All right. Good answer. Okay, I think we're good.
Regina, real quick, did you still have a question?
Her hand went down now. Regina, are you good?
Yes, I have one question.
Sure.
I love my coat, my chef coat. I love it to death. It fits across the breast and everything, but unfortunately, my arms are extremely short. Is it okay if I can get it altered?
Oh, absolutely. Make it fit. Yep. Otherwise, and for the first week, if you just have to roll up the sleeves or whatever, that's fine. We'll understand.
Yeah, I have to roll mine up. I got the same problem. Unfortunately, they're made for more, I think, for men than women, but again, we're not in fashion, so.
No, but let me tell you one thing. Don't alter it too much because, and these are my parting words, don't alter it too much because as you move through the program, you're going to gain a couple extra pounds, and that jacket that loose is going to be a little bit snug, so, and that's okay.
Another question about those jackets. Do we dry them? Like, if we dry them, will they shrink?
No, they're kind of a blend, so they're good. I wash mine in just warm water with a little bit of Tide or whatever soap you use, and then I just tumble dry it. I take it out of the dryer immediately and put it on a hanger, and I don't even have to iron it.
Nice, no wrinkles. I like it.
If you guys get stains on them, the best thing is to do not use Clorox. Use baking soda and white vinegar.
That's good.
And if
Yeah.
you get the stain out, mix it together and rub it in with a toothbrush.
Yeah, we keep losing you, Maria.
I wish we could just got started.
Maria.
Right out.
Maria's gone.
Because the Clorox will, this stupid internet is going crazy today.
Yeah, Clorox turns your white coat yellow, so you want to avoid that. So definitely vinegar, baking soda, and like OxyClean, any of those oxygenated, I think that's a word, yeah, oxygenated powders work really well. And hot water, like if you get a chocolate stain, stay away from like hot water, things that are going to set the stains. But yeah, OxyClean or baking soda, like Maria was talking about, a little white vinegar, works really well. So don't get stains on your jackets. Hello, it's that easy.
Yana said, could we order more than one jacket from Escoffier? Like, can we go online to the store and order more than one?
I believe so.
She asked in
Yeah, I think there's still a place that you can order them online. So
like, speaking of online, like in the stores, there are like Escoffier t-shirts that we can wear for when like our jackets or whatever are like extremely filthy.
I think there is some merchandise on there. I haven't looked lately because honestly I haven't looked for like 6 months, so I don't know what's updated there. But I know they used to have like coats and travel cups and things like that with the logo on it. And
But I'm sure you can go on like Amazon and get some like black or other white ones, just plain.
that's true.
but just make sure you are in a chef coat, preferably your uniform chef coat with your skull cap on and your apron for your self ID.
Okay.
Yes, chef.
And all of your baking assignments.
The chef ID, is that little digital download card we had to
No,
get from our
that your self ID when you're taking your picture for your each week's assignment. That's what I'm referring to.
Take a picture of yourself. That's the ID we're looking for.
The selfie. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I
So
had
that's
a
not
student submit her driver's license. I'm like, that's not the ID I want. No, I want a picture of you. Yeah. Okay.
So it's not the Escoffier student license that we download. I
No,
mean,
just need
student
your
ID that
photo
we
ID.
download.
Photo ID, just a selfie.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate that. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Chef Jen, okay?
Yes, chef.
Don't be shy. Be active in class. Show up every week. Get your assignments in early, and we're going to be happy campers. You guys are going to learn a lot in this class, okay? So get prepared. Take a lot of notes. Watch those live session archives if you've missed it. And enjoy the rest of your week.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.